And welcome back. This is Aluminum Tarot. We're going to be reading the Black Mirror spread. Hopefully it's been catching on a little bit. Basically what it deals with is narcissistic energy or energy from toxic relationships from the past that will reveal some messages that maybe the person, the querent in mind, needs to know. So anyways, again, as always, if you like what you see on this channel, please give a like, share, and subscribe. Ding the notification bell so that you can keep up to date with all the different updates. And if you'd like a personal reading, please feel free to reach out at the information in the description box below. I can help you out with that. Also, be aware of any scammers taking shape on the internet who are posing as other tarot card readers and, of course, creating chaos around the internet. So block them, shun them, send them to the four corners of the earth with love and light, as always. Do apologize, yes, to everyone for the late messages. I've been out traveling quite a bit. And, of course, had to do a little bit of motoring in the rain and wet. So that was a lot of fun. But anyways, back to business. I'm going to go ahead and get started with this. So that way we can get your messages in. So this is going to be for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. I'm going to go ahead and try to clarify and see which messages need to come out about the most recent and significant relationship in your life, which has given you some kind of toxicity, or that has essentially given you a lesson that you need to learn from narcissistic abuse and relationships. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle and see what comes out in the cards. What messages do we need to know for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant for the Black Mirror spread? What messages do we need to know for Aries for the Black Mirror spread? What messages do I need to know from Aries for the Black Mirror spread, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant? Messages do we need to know for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant? Okay. So, this is quite a big spread, so I'm just going to explain briefly. This goes into the energies again to try to find out what the big lesson is from the most recent narcissistic relationship that you've encountered. Of course, what I see these days when it comes to narcissism is that these people are the black mirror. They are the reflection of you and the lessons that you need to learn about life and yourself that allow you to shake your own devilish energies. And by devilish, I mean the limitations, the self-imposed restrictions, and the other types of energies that limit you from your fullest potential. And, kind of clear out some karmic debts for you as well. So in doing this, in the encounter with the narcissistic person or the toxic abusive person, you are learning how to stand stronger and to be a better, more authentic self, rather than allowing codependency to dictate your actions in your specific relationship with people. And this in turn will help free you from those restrictions. So let's get started. The lesson. Okay, how did it begin? How did the relationship with Aries begin? How did it progress? And then how did it end? Okay, so how were you initially attracted? Page of Cups. What was the toxic person's aim and intention? What's the aim and intention? How was the Aries codependent? Okay. How was the toxic person codependent? Now, next, coping tactic. I feel like my card deck is exploding every 5 seconds. Give me a minute. All right, abuse tactics on the narcissist side. How did you pull away? How did they control you to stay in the relationship? How did you protect yourself from this person? Okay. How did they discard you? Two cards want to come out on this. And what is the way to close the cycle? I feel like I need to clarify that with something else. Okay. So, bottom of the deck, we have the Two of Cups reversed. So this is energy of someone who is disconnecting from the relationship, who is no longer interested, or they are no longer bound to this person. Emotionally, they have basically disconnected, detached themselves from any kind of love offering. This is going to be evident across the entire energies here. And they will also play into the lesson which is underway here, which is the Six of Swords reverse. Now, the way I see this, we do have two people who are basically giving up everything in order to move on from a negative situation into calm of waters. And what we see from this particular card as the lesson is that sometimes someone felt that they knew that they needed to walk away from something, they needed to leave a situation, but intellectually they remained stuck. And they made it very difficult for this transition to take place. And it seemed like the universe had to actually kick you out of the plane when it was time to skydive or to parachute, even though that you knew that you needed to do it, you just simply didn't want to do it. And now you've learned the hard lesson of staying within, negative situations that were not conducive to your happiness or to a healthy, happy relationship. Now, in the recent, when the relationship began between you and this narcissistic person or this toxic person, basically you were in a period of waiting, self-reflection, introspection. Maybe you had just recently gotten out of a previous relationship in which you were trying to process emotionally and mentally some of the lessons that you needed to learn from it. And then when this person came in, you felt that this person was allowing you to get over your heartache. So they were able to take you away from this, trauma that that had been inflicted upon you or that you had faced in the past. And now it's, you begin to realize, I think the way the relationship ended, now we have the Ten of Pentacles, which is a weird card for an ending, considering that the Ten of Pentacles normally represents a kind of legacy or a type of long-term commitment. Now, a lot of people would interpret this as the marriage card, but I see this as kind of like it ended because it was a superficial and shallow kind of relationship, which offered essentially material comforts and a sense of status to it. And I'm going to pull a card to kind of see exactly what's going on with that. Clarify the Ten of Pentacles. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for you, this relationship seemed a bit, tenable, and it seemed that it gave you all of the things that you thought you needed, but for some reason it seemed like you weren't really listening to your intuition on the shallowness of the relationship. There was a lot of, if you're a female, you may have been treated like a trophy wife. If you were a male, you were kind of treated as kind of like, you were treated kind of like as arm candy, and it was kind of a way to boost the other person's status and standing in society. And you kind of knew this, and that was the secret that just kind of came out. Maybe you weren't listening to your intuition on that initially, and then it eventually became this kind of relationship in which it was not really about love, it was about status. And it was difficult for you to move on from it because it gave you this sense of comfort and this sense of stability, or providing some of the psychological things that you needed out of the relationship. Unfortunately, this wasn't enough to sustain it, and this did result in a long, drawn-out process of extricating yourself from this toxicity, because toxicity can actually build in a relationship that seems perfect on the outside, but on the inside it can fester a lot of resentment and negative emotions and things of that nature. So we're going to peer into this a little bit more to see exactly what's going on, but we will find out through the rest of the cards in this particular spread. Now, initially, you were attracted to this person through flirting, text messages, whispering sweet nothings, and it was very light-hearted and a very flirtatious beginning. This was something that you liked about the person. They had a bit of a childlike nature to them. They had all the right words to say, and they were able to court you in a very fun and light-hearted way. This was something that attracted you to them. Now, but their intention was to kind of, it was to give to this incrementally, I would say, and to see where it would go. I would also say that maybe initially they played a bit hard to get, because the Six of Pentacles can indicate a kind of breadcrumbing energy, giving just enough so that they can keep you interested in the beginning. So maybe you felt that this was a person that you needed to conquer or to convince to proceed further with the relationship. Maybe they were a bit aloof. Maybe they gave you a little bit, then you'd see them a few weeks later. They gave you a little bit more. You see them a couple of days later. And that's really what I get from that. Now, we look into codependency. As the Aries, you felt maybe that at the time in which you met, you were not as grounded as you needed to be. Maybe your finances were not that stable. Maybe you felt like you were in debt, or you potentially weren't as particularly organized as you needed to be, and your life was a little bit chaotic at the time. And this person gave you a bit of stability, because while you are the Queen of Pentacles reversed, the person on the other side, their codependency was the Empress, so they felt they needed to take care of you and to nurture and mother you a bit, to kind of get you into the right frame of mind. And that gave them a sense of power, as well as it gave them a sense of purpose to the relationship. This may have been the reason why this became a kind of toxic relationship, by being highly superficial. And it disconnected you from your spiritual connection to the universe. I would even say that, because you felt like, yes, we've got the money, the status, we've got the house, we've got the dog, the 2 kids, the picket fence, or whatever that was involved in that, in the material sense, the legacy that you were trying to leave. But as you did that, you felt disconnected from the things that you really wanted out of life, and disconnected from your higher self, which is telling you that this was quite a bad situation to eventually go into, because it left you with a bit of stagnancy. And that's never anything good, no matter how much material wealth you have around you. Now, going into it, The way you coped with this relationship is that when negative things did pop up, whether it was an argument, whether it was a fight over resources or finances, or, someone potentially controlling the relationship through the material side of it, which we'll get into it in just in a few seconds, we find that you were the Tower reversed. And that is specifically a person who avoids any kinds of disasters, avoids any kinds of fights, does their best to try to avoid the relationship from crashing down, maybe by doing things, stepping in to intervene and to, maybe say everything's going to be okay. It's not a healthy relation. It's not a healthy situation, because oftentimes when the Tower card comes out, it means that you need to actually detach yourself and distance yourself from the situation and let that tower burn to the ground. The divine has actually stepped in this card. You see that. This is a card where there is a bolt of lightning from the divine that comes in and knocks that crown off, and then allows the tower to burn because the foundation is shaky in itself. I'm assuming that the relationship was shaky in the beginning due to the fact that you were codependent materially on this person. And they allowed you, while they did, give you all the right things, it seemed, emotionally in the beginning, a lot of this was based on the material needs of you and the material needs that they could provide to you. But because what we see here, you are the Tower reversed in your coping mechanism. Now, the way this person responds by abusing you is ghosting, leaving you out in the cold, controlling your finances, and keeping you in a sense of financial or material lack. So I'm getting it intuitively. I'm getting a person who may have controlled your finances, who told you couldn't spend money on these things, who told you, if you want these things, you need to do such and such, A, B, and C, and really kind of putting a strings attached kind of vibe to the way that you went about your day-in-day life. This may become like a very toxic codependent cycle of, stick and carrot method, where you felt like in order for you to have that positive, healthy lifestyle, you needed to do things for that person, or to be at that person's mercy when it came to decisions made within the relationship. Otherwise, they would ghost you, they would neglect you, they would treat you as if you didn't matter. They could go off and do things for days while leaving you at the house, sat wondering exactly what they were doing. They could have lied and said, oh, well, I'm going to go on this trip for this reason, for business, and it was actually a trip, to go hang out with friends or to be with another lover or things of that nature. And of course, you don't need to put up with that kind of, you don't need to put up with that shit at all. That said, we're going to move on. As the relationship progressed, of course, you knew that you needed to do something about it. There was a lot of conflict that began to arise about it, and you said to yourself, well, I want to get out of this. I'm going to avoid the drama. I'm going to start doing some things that help me to kind of get my mind straight and sorted. So I'm going to withdraw emotionally and withdraw via my actions from this relationship. Now, this person, of course, responded back to you by trying to control you, by saying that, oh, well, you're kind of a burden to me anyway. I've been taking care of this, and that. You haven't really been doing much. You haven't really been pulling your weight. You haven't contributed that much financially to this relationship. And so, you're not necessarily needed in my life. You're kind of like, I get the word babysitting. They may have controlled you by feeling like you were in lack all of the time. And therefore it was their right to step in and say, well, they had the right to complain about something. They had the right to demean you, belittle you, because you were not in the financial standing needed to help contribute, at least on the material level, to this relationship. even if you were putting out your, you were giving emotion and, giving harmony and trying to restore balance to it, it doesn't really seem here like this person actually saw your value. They felt like they had all the value because it was on the material level, but they neglected the emotional, because I don't see any cups in here, save for the last cup, the last card here, which is the Three of Cups, which is how they discard you. And we'll explain that in a little bit. And hopefully that will clarify that. You started off with cups. You started off with the Page of Cups. That's what you saw in the other person. Now, the way this ends, the way the story closes out, is that you go into the Page of Wands, and essentially you lose interest. You just, the passion dies. You find yourself sleeping in the same bed with someone who feels like a stranger. You are no longer really interested in engaging the relationship. There's very little communication. It seems that for you, you want more. And even though it feels kind of like a burden that you weren't able to contribute as much financially to it, you realize that that's not really all there is to love. And I think that's what your intuition was trying to tell you the entire time, the thing that you were trying to ignore. Because you felt like you had a catch because this person had a lot of money, status, power, and affluence. But it wasn't love. And you realized that quickly, and that's when you began to detach from the relationship. Now, this person responded by discarding you using this. The Three of Cups and the Ace of Pentacles. Typically in a narcissistic relationship, what people will do, they'll start to line up their new sources of narcissistic supply. And what this entails is going out seeking new relationships where they can start the cycle of love bombing to attract a new person or people where they can get new narcissistic supply from. This is essentially the attention, the adoration, the admiration, and the things that would typically entail that would attract a person in the beginning. Not necessarily a healthy relationship, but it would attract a person in the beginning with the love bombing phase. So they went around, they love bombed people, they probably got into some entanglements, as Jada Pinkett Smith would say, which we all know that just basically means royally cocking up your relationship by having sex with people you're not supposed to. And then using that as kind of an excuse. Couple that with the Ace of Pentacles, that entails to me someone who is kind of debasing the value of the relationship. No, it wasn't a big deal. Oh yeah, it just kind of happened. Just don't worry about it. They kind of undervalued the gravity of their actions. And that's kind of like the gaslighting that typically takes place in this type of relationship, where a person will say, well, you're just not really seeing things the way they are. It's not a big deal. Don't take it so seriously. They're trying to basically show you how you should value the relationship. And you weren't having any of that shit. I mean, you were basically Page of Wands reversed. So we come to how this closes out. We have these two cards. We have the Ten of Cups and we have the Two of Pentacles. Now, when you talk about your happiness does not come into the spread until you have closed out the cycle, which means that in order for you to be happy, you had to close this out. All the power and status and wealth and being attached to a person you found attractive, that was charismatic and that other people wanted and so on, that didn't really mean anything until you realize that it was all a facade. It was all superficial and shallow. And so your happiness came right after you were able to adapt and to balance your life out You may have had to go into survival mode a bit. You may have had to balance out your budget, use your available resources to you to try to remove yourself from the relationship, even though it was difficult. And if you're still involved in this person, because this did end in the Ten of Pentacles, it could indicate that yes, you were in a long-term relationship or married to this person, and now you're trying to extricate yourself from that. Because this came together slowly, it's going to finish slowly. And so now you're trying to find your happiness despite having to balance out all of these material issues that you have with this person, and learn how to, seek the things that make you happy, despite the new challenges that have, come up due to the fact that, yes, you did put your heart and soul into a superficial, shallow, materialistic relationship, which eventually led you to, having to decouple from everything. So interestingly enough, you have on this person's side, you have the Six of Pentacles and the Five of Pentacles, which 6 plus 5 is 11. 11 is 1 plus 1. That equals the Two of Pentacles here that you find as your way to close out the cycle. If we were to go in further, we have, for you, the Queen of Pentacles, Ten of Pentacles. That is, again, another 11. So you have an 11 and you have an 11. Those both distill to 2. Interesting the way the tarot works out in maths. I love that. That said, we look at the fact that this is your opportunity. The number 11 typically symbolizes an opportunity, a unification between spirit and self, or a gateway that allows people to pass through and have a new kind of life and a new kind of opportunity for themselves. What you should do now is to take that, if you haven't done so already, and try to start reconstructing your new tower with a solid foundation. This is no longer a cope. This is now a chance for you to build something really solid, really stable, something that would allow you to get rid of this codependency of being the Queen of Pentacles reversed and now the Queen of Pentacles upright, by nurturing something, no matter how small it is, and using that as your new self, your new sense of material self-worth. Even though the Queen of Pentacles can represent material security or the Netflix and chill where you just kind of take care of yourself, she's also nurturing her self-worth. The Pentacles are value of any kind. And essentially when you are valuing yourself and you grow and you nurture and you coddle that as you would a child, you can watch that child grow. And the Empress that you thought that you had in this person, which is why you stayed in the relationship for so long, you are now going to become that Empress. You're a pre-Empress energy with the Queen of Pentacles or the Nine of Pentacles. And this is giving you the chance to nurture like the Empress would, but under your own volition, under your own willpower and free will to do this. Take this lesson, whatever resonates with you. If it doesn't, so be it. But I hope that you were able to gain something from this. This was, again, the reading for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. This has been Aluminum Tarot. Thanks so much for joining. I do sincerely appreciate your time, energy. If you like what you see here, please like, share, and subscribe. Ding the notification bell. And also, if you'd like a personal reading, feel free to reach out, and I'd be more than happy to, sort that out for you. Thanks so much for your time and attention again. Until then, bye now.